And we're back with another wonderful episode of Bob and Weave with Rob and Steve. I'm Rob. That's Steve. We've been doing this podcast. I think we're on episode 24. So we're humming along.
You said this is a humming podcast, right?
Yes, it's a hummingbird podcast. We're gonna talk about all the hummingbirds. What noises do hummingbirds make? That's a good first question.
I'm pretty sure they squawk like piercingly loud, correct?
I don't think hummingbirds make a noise. I think their noise is their wings flapping.
Oh, just that.
Yeah. Jamie, pull that up.
Nice. Oh, man.
Only we had a Jamie.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
You ever wonder how much that guy gets paid? It must be salary just from the GRE, right?
But he's been there. I guess Joe Rogan was big before this. Because I think about that for some people who are on like smaller podcasts or like the ones that kind of came out of nowhere. Like I bet they offered them like 3% of the show's earnings or something like that. Like, sure, I'll give you $15 an hour and 3% of earnings. And now they're raking it. I wonder if James like that.
We should look that up. What is his net worth? I'd have to start with what's his last name.
Yeah. I wonder if that would work. What is Jamie's net worth?
Yeah.
It might be one of the top 5 that would show up, though.
Yeah. I've never seen what he looks like, but he sounds like he's a funny looking dude, doesn't he?
He's living the dream. He's borderline famous, probably making a bunch of money, and nobody knows what he looks like, and still go to dinner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can still go to dinner. Yeah. So what's up, man? How's your week been? I haven't seen you in a week and a half.
It's Fed week, man. You didn't hear?
Mm-hmm. No, I saw half a point, baby. Let's go.
We've been waiting for this week for years. And it finally happened. So the Fed did their first rate cut. I know we talked about last time, but people keep asking me all the time. I had a client call me on the day the Fed did the rate cut and said, "Hey, are rates lower?" And I was like, "Yeah, they have been for a month, and I've been telling you that." So because everybody knew the Fed was going to do this rate cut, they shifted where they invested their money in anticipation of the rate cut. And so the rates went up the day that the Fed did the rate cut because investors had overinvested in mortgage-backed securities. Even though the Fed did a higher than anticipated cut of 50 basis points. That was the highest we had anticipated their cut to be. But I think just too many people tried to take advantage of it and overinvested in mortgage-backed securities. And so they pulled their money out and kind of corrected themselves that day and the following day.
So who's investing in mortgage-backed securities? Is it like even the little guy, or are we talking people who are 100+ million net worths?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't found out how to directly invest in mortgage-backed securities, but it's like a bond or a treasury. If you've looked into those, they're long-term investments. It's not like a stock that you trade today and tomorrow, but the price of it adjusts just like a stock does. But so let's say a 10-year treasury. You buy a 10-year treasury, you're supposedly holding it for 10 years, and then say it's at 5%, they're going to give you 5% annually for those 10 years. That's kind of how that works. And you can, buy and sell these treasuries in between those 10 years, and the value of it changes based on the current market. And like we talked about before, if you have one that's at 6%, the current market's at 5%, the value of that 6% treasury is now higher because it's a higher return than what the current market's giving you. Same kind of thing with mortgage-backed securities. I don't know exactly how to go buy mortgage-backed securities, but the way I understand it and what I learned from The Big Short is they actually put them into tranches. So in like these packages of loans that have varying, riskability into them. And so that's really what you're investing to. You're not like buying one loan that's at this percent rate. You're buying a mix of loans that are in this class or grade, and you're supposed to hold them for longer periods of time, not like a day trade type thing.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Well, cool. So what kind of impact do you think Well, first of all, they're going to cut two more times, right? Starting next year in January.
That's the anticipation. Because this is all about inflation. So the Fed has two. It's a dual mandate. They want to keep inflation low and unemployment low. So employment high. So as long as those two things stay in line, there's no severe changes. They're going to continue to cut. This first cut was later than we thought it was going to be. We think it's a little bit delayed based on the data that's been coming out the past 6 months. So they did a 50 basis point cut, or 0.5% for you non basis point people out there. And so we thought they were going to do 25 basis points, but they did 50, which was relatively aggressive. So it's kind of like they're playing a little bit of catch up. But we think that next time they do a cut, there's probably going to only be 25. And if they do one after that, it would probably only be 25 again. So we don't think that there's going to be drastic remarks and drastic changes. But yeah, I mean, when they were hiking rates, I think they did one that was 75 basis point hike, which was just ouch. And so I think we're going to be, what we should be doing, very slow movements towards the direction we want to go to. Because when we really get in trouble is when there's unexpected movements by the Fed. Like if the Fed said, you know what, instead of just doing a 50, 25, 25, we're just going to cut by one today and let you guys figure it out. That would be devastating. Money would be flying everywhere. Stocks would go up and down because people are trying to reinvest their money to be more safe. And so it's good that we're moving very slowly because it's more predictable. People can make reactions. There's a delayed time where we can actually make educated decisions. And so it's good to move there slowly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm selfishly, I'm kind of hoping that unemployment doesn't get less and less and less, because that means wages are going to need to hike up. And
Right.
and I feel like small business owners get impacted by that the most, because raising prices on your customers has a huge impact and is a huge like you know what's it called, fallout of that, like just a lot
Mm-hmm.
of issues you got to deal with all the customers that get frustrated by that. And then but then finding people, even with, you raise the pay $1 an hour, it's still incredibly hard to find good people, because good people have their pick of the litter on jobs and are probably even getting jobs they're not qualified for.
Yep. So are you saying you're price gouging?
Price gouging, more like directly being impacted by inflation.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
Bidenomics. Not that I'm taking a political side publicly on a recorded podcast, but
You can do whatever you want, man.
just kidding. Um, yeah, we've had a lot of challenges with that, and I'm also kind of worried that about interest rates going down. Like 4 years ago, I was stoked interest rates going down. Oh, cool! I can afford a house, and with a pretty low payment, that is great. And now here we are, 5 years, 4 year, 4.5, 5 years later. Now I'm worried about, well, with interest rates going back down, inflation will pick back up a little bit. Like I know it's less than 2% right now, right? But it'll pick back up a little bit, and we're gonna have to do price corrections, across the board. We're gonna have to increase prices on customers and increase pay. But the effect for me is I'm still gonna make the same amount of money, maybe less. So
And your money's worth less.
well, exactly. I'd make the same dollar value, but it would be worth less. That's really exactly what I mean.
Right.
My margin will stay the same numerically, but in terms of the value of it, it will be it'll stretch farther, or it will stretch, reverse stretch, right? It'll unstretch. It won't stretch farther. It will do whatever the opposite is of that.
Compress.
It'll compress. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a heat compress. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, I've been talking with a couple of friends about like different economic policies and stuff, and like I can see the things from if you look at it from like a country standpoint, your views are extremely different than if you're looking at it from a small business standpoint. And so I have some friends that work at banks, and they're like, "Oh, well, did you see what happened to the GDP?" And there's like, "Why do you care about the GDP? What does the GDP do for you?" Like, I
Yeah.
care about how much eggs cost. Like,
Yeah.
that's my biggest concern. I bought a carton of eggs for $10. Like, I'm upset by that. Like, I do not give a shit how much GDP is, but
Mm-hmm.
it does play into the same kind of thing where we want things to be more affordable. But what numbers are you looking at? And I think what we should be concerned about is, like you're talking about, small business owners, how it affects them, because that's, the backbone of America. Without small businesses, we don't have new creations. We're not supporting local communities. It's where inventions come from, new ideas. I mean, every amazing company that you can think of in America started off as a small business.
Mm-hmm.
And if those people don't have a chance to grow, then you can't really achieve the American dream. It's like the American dream becomes work at Wells Fargo and be a 9 to 5 slave for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And Rob, me and you, we're both guys who come from a middle class neighborhood. You know, everyone cared about their lawn. Uh, lots of nurses, firefighters. So that's how we're gonna solve it. Is just that's because that's where we came from. So
Yeah, we're definitely. I mean, that's what our families are. It's what we're gonna look out for first.
yeah,
I think it's crazy what people do is like they try and take care of somebody else before them. It doesn't make sense.
yeah.
What's so funny, man?
Oh, I was quoting uh, the vice president
Oh, you
there.
were?
Yeah, I fit it into the conversation nicely. I thought you may or may not catch that. Yeah.
I didn't. I can only consume so much information, Steven.
Yeah, earlier this week, a reporter asked Kamala Harris, "What, obviously the rising costs of food and goods is affecting, middle class and lower class American citizens.
Is this the one where the couple asked her a question?
Maybe it might have been a couple. I didn't even see the ask her, but yeah, they basically asked her for one specific example of one thing she's going to do to help fix that, and all she did was just talk about where she came from."
I'm one of you. Don't you know?
They cared about their lawns. Okay, what's the relevance here? Where's the action?
Got it.
Yeah, just another sound bite that's out there that was funny. I'm sure she ended up answering it with a really good idea, but
I'm sure she did.
they cut that
I'm
part
sure
off.
she described her concept of a plan.
And then yeah, and then she put it on her website. Um, but yeah, man. But yeah, it is getting crazy out there. Things are so expensive. We were buying. We just went to Costco yesterday, and we used to buy those 3 packs of chicken thighs or chicken breasts that they have, and the organic ones were like $20 for a 3 pack, $19, $24. Depending on how much weight was packed in each one. And now it's like hard to find one under 40.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We're supposed to go tomorrow, and that's kind of what I'm expecting. We usually buy like 3 at a time,
Yeah.
and it'll be a day.
Yeah, I don't know if they're packing them heavier. Maybe they're just packing them a little beefier, but I don't think so, man. $6 a pound is really really killer,
So
really killer.
this is actually, I'm going to turn this political, but like it turns into Kamala says the reason it's so expensive is price gouging. Trump says it's so expensive because energy is too expensive.
Hmm.
Do you think there's one that is more likely than the other, or is it both, or case by case?
Well, I think these all have impact, right? Like yes, gas, like gasoline, fuel is definitely more expensive, even considering the inflation change. It's more expensive now than it was under him. Um, is electric cars the solution for that in the short term? No. Could it be in the future? Maybe, if we do Elon Musk's idea, right, of making the corner of Nevada an entire solar farm. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's gouging. I mean, I get it that companies have record profits, but it's also like we talked about. Who cares if the number is higher? What is the actual value different than what it was 5, 10 years ago? I, I'm not convinced that it is. So, a lot
I
of
think
people.
I think
Oh
that
yeah, go ahead.
these companies, they're when you have a public company, your goal is to increase shareholder value. That's what the only thing that every time you make a change in your business, you're trying to increase shareholder value. Because the more you do that, the more people invest in your company, the more money you get. Um, But I mean, so yeah, they're trying to maximize profits, but I think there has to be a lid on it somewhere. But I also don't think that 100% of price increases are just because it's a greedy corporation. Like some of it is like you're saying what I was saying about uh, the cost to raise a chicken is now more because the corn is more expensive because the water
Mhm.
is more expensive to feed the corn, and the tractor to get the corn out of the ground runs on fuel, which is twice as expensive as it was 4 years ago.
Yep.
And so I think all that goes into it. So I think that they're both kind of right. I think that the cost of food is more important to the everyday goods that we're buying. But I mean, I've always been a big proponent of capping corporate greed and the fact that people are in poverty and like the affordability of a house is going down and down and down, but corporate profits are at all time highs is a travesty and disgusting, and somebody needs to go fix it. Um, but yeah, I think that's my soapbox. I'm off.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more on that. But yeah, I'm not sure. Price gouging also like it. Uh, at least when I learned of that term back in social studies, or maybe it was economics. I don't remember if it was fifth grade or college, but I learned that price gouging is better to describe it in a story. Is during a hurricane, what happens to the value on Facebook Marketplace of generators? They're like 10x's, right? People are spending 10 grand to buy a generator that is normally $500 at Home Depot. So as soon as it happens, every time there's a hurricane on the forecast, is everybody goes to Home Depot and buys generators so that they can resell them for cash 2 weeks later, right? For 5,000. So that's price gouging, is capitalizing on a emergency event. So
Look at all, so another instance of that is just be if you are the only competition in the market, like if there's nobody else selling the same product as you and people need it, then you can
mhm.
price gouge.
Well, but then that becomes a monopolization issue, which is an antitrust law, right? So that's when government would come in and say either we're splitting you up into multiple companies to recreate the competition, and you can't, you know, collude on pricing, or or they do like they do to the electrical, like the power companies, because those are all private, right? They put federal limits on the prices based on each area. So California's limits are higher than, say, Alabama's, because people in California make more money, and the cost of living there is higher. So it makes sense that the power would cost more. But in Alabama, it's not like their technicians make $40 an hour; they make 25. So it's just overall it's cheaper. The limit is lower there. But yeah, I have an issue when it's usually the Democrats that I hear anyways using it as a term to sound shocking, right? Oh, price gouging, price gouging. Well, there's no COVID right now. There is no national emergency. There was no September 11th attack. There was no hurricane. So it's not even price gouging. It's just um, I think they're saying that to redirect blame to them, rather than taking accountability for inflation through all the money printing that they've been doing. Um, I saw something though that uh, that Donald Trump actually had higher his during his presidency, more money was spent on government spending than during Obama or during this most recent 4 years. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yeah. So I've actually been talking about this a lot. So it's about the whole COVID crisis and how that handled it in the, the quote from the person I talked to, his irresponsibility who caused all the issues that happened with COVID. So when he first got into office, there was a whole H1N1 flu or swine flu. Remember that?
Yep.
So when he got in office, he thought that they were way overstaffed for the H1N1 team, whatever, and they put out some ridiculous rules that he didn't like. So he pretty much axed that team. And because he axed that team, we I need to do more research on this, but this is the story. We were not prepared enough for coronavirus. We didn't have
Mm.
people in place. We didn't have systems in place to capture it and get it under control fast enough. And so that's why it went rampant. That's why the country shut down. It's because we didn't have the correct governmental powers, focusing on disease control. And then because of that, and this was towards the end of his tenure, instead of him, just kind of saying, "Shoot, we messed up. Let's clean this up and move forward." He's like, "Okay, how can I get us out of this as quickly as possible?" And so the way to do that was, to buy up a bunch of stuff, make money really cheap, make mortgage rates really, really cheap. And so people can go out and spend money. But to do that, the government had to spend a bunch of money. So to get us out of COVID, Donald Trump had to spend an enormous amount of money, like the most money that anybody's ever spent while in
Mhm.
sitting office. And that is what caused inflation.
Hmm.
So as that kind of trickled down through the economy and everything happened, all this money is out there. That's why there was so much inflation. So that was the story I got. Was if he didn't fire the H1N1 team, we wouldn't have had such an outbreak for COVID, and then he wouldn't have had to spend so much money, causing inflation, which damaged the country for the next 4 years.
Hmm. More like the next 8, I guess, because that was at the no, it was at the end of his presidency, I
Yeah,
guess.
because yep.
Hmm. Yeah, it'll definitely be good to have all this behind us and kind of come out on the end of this
Wait,
cycle.
what do you mean? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for you? I haven't
Well,
seen one.
I I don't know. I feel like the country does go through these massive spikes, and it's not every 4 or every 8, but just that there's the market cycle on average of every 8 to 12 years, right? And but there's also another graph that I've seen that shows kind of every 70 years, right? That there's like and we're kind of at the end of that now, like if you look at it in an even
You mean
larger
like
scale,
economic booms and stuff, or
right? Like we're still closer to the 2008 than we are to the 1980, right? So um, I know
yeah,
things have improved a lot relatively from 2008, but if you look at it zoomed out back to like the 1800s, you see another bell curve that it's not as consistent, but you see that there's big booms where there's a big like World War II, for example. Like the Great Depression is kind of in that realm, and then you see World War II. Finally, we start spiking back out of it, and it keeps going up a little bit into the 50s and 60s, even right into the boomer time frame. So, so it's like
yeah.
there's a longer cycle as well. I'm not as familiar with it. I've seen it once or twice.
I'm gonna provide a different opinion on this. So the recession we had because of COVID was the shortest recession ever. So short that some people
Mhm.
don't even call it a recession. And I think that's going to be a common trend with technology because now information can be spread so fast. And so if we're talking about the 1800s, you know, information was 1,000 times slower than it is right now. So people reacted to it 1,000 times slower. Now, when we hear the market crashes, we can sell all our stocks, we can compact everything within the same day. Whatever we need to do to make our adjustments. So I think that these curves that you're talking about, these trends, I think they're going to get shorter and shorter and shorter because information can spread so quick. Like we know when there's a bombing in Italy the same day that it happens. Before we had internet, it would take us weeks or months to know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I understand these curves, and I think that curves do happen, but I think that the terms at which they, the 70-year term, it's not going to be 70 years. It's going to be 7 months, something like that.
Yeah, that wild.
Yeah, and
That's a good
especially, I
point.
mean, technology is still going to keep growing, and it's still going to get expanding and get faster. And when we have actual AI that learns from itself, that it's going to correct immediately before we even notice that it happens. Just parlay into the next topic is that I heard somebody say that what we have right now is not AI, it's algorithmic learning.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't learn on its own. It learns what we teach it, and
Yeah,
then it can go out
yeah,
there and do other stuff. But it's not true AI because it can't come up with a thought on its own.
yep. Dude, I was already kind of liking Chat GPT, but 2 days ago, I'm now like hooked. Something happened. Um, so I've been using it a lot to like, oh, help me write this email. My emails tend to be cold and passive aggressive,
Mhm.
and when they come out of my brain, so I've been for like serious emails to customers or whatever, I've been putting it in there and having it, hey, rephrase this to be more positive and professional. I don't know, whatever, and it'll rewrite it for me. I'm like, oh, perfect. I pretty much copy paste that, and I noticed like a little in like little gray letters under one of its responses, it said like new facts learned and like committed to memory or something like that. So I'm like, oh wait, did it just like, because I had mentioned for the preschool that I own in my question, right? And so it like memorized, oh, you own this preschool, and then it remembered that earlier I had in one particular email, it was like Steve, like my signature was Steven, owner Strive Academy. So it like learned, oh, the name of your business is Strive Academy. And so then 2 days ago, I was like, hey, help me write this policy. And it should include this, that, and the other thing. And it like wrote it all and it put it like at Strive Academy. I was like, oh, I didn't even cue it this time. It just remembered it from last time. So I'm like, oh my God, this thing can learn all about everything I'm doing on it as I'm doing it. And so the more I use it, the better it's going to get.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
been
then
doing
I
that for
started.
quite some time, probably since it first came out.
Yeah, but that I never really understood that. So I was like for example, I was writing a curriculum like a month ago, right? And I was like, okay, it's about different countries, 52 countries, right? So the first thing I did was I was like, okay, give me this, that, and the other information about Italy, and then I'd copy and paste it over to my document. And I was like, okay, give me the information about da 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 da. And then just today I was like, oh my God, I can do this even easier. I said, give me 52 countries that preschoolers would find interesting. And it was like 52. I was like, okay, give me these three things about each of those countries you just gave me. And it just wrote the whole freaking thing. And I'm like,
Yeah. So,
oh my God, you just saved me so much time.
are
Like
you
days.
saving conversations?
It saves it. Yeah. And the left
Okay,
side,
so
they're
then
like,
you go
yeah,
back to that conversation. You can name that conversation and then go back to it. So one of the things I do on my weekly emails, I have like a recipe that I put on
yeah.
there, just because a lot of people don't care about mortgages; they just want to see the picture of food. um, and so I get that recipe from the same source every time, but I hate the way they put it in like paragraph format. Like, here's the recipe, paragraph format, and I
Oh,
hate that.
worst. Yeah.
Yeah, so I put it in a chat GPT. I call it the recipe converter. And so I've got to the point where all I do is I take that paragraph, I paste it in chat GPT, I click go. I don't give it any prompts, no prompts.
It just knows.
Yeah, because it's the same conversation. It's the only thing I do in that conversation, and it
Wow.
gives it exactly how I want it to go.
Oh, wow. Oh, sick. So you can
Yeah,
even organize the conversations for repeated
yeah.
tasks.
So you just say, when you do something like this, and for this time and every time in the future, do X, Y, and Z, and then go back to the conversation. It'll do it.
Wow. Unreal.
Yeah.
Dude, it's also super helpful with like real estate development because there's so many codes in like a city building code, and there's also like each city is different, and
Oh,
all of them have their code. They're like city code all online. So I just ask Chat. Sometimes people are asking me, can I build this certain thing here on the phone? And I'm like, I know the conversation's coming, so I just pull it up and I'm typing their question as they're asking it, and
and
just to
just
confirm, even if I know the answer, just to like validate, and it
yeah.
looks through the code and tells me in like 2 seconds. It's wild.
Do you input any of the code, or do you just say, "Hey,
Mm-mm.
for this address, does the state law allow us to do this, or the county law?"
Um, I probably could train it to get to that point, but no, I typically when I'm talking to these people, I already kind of know what property they're talking about and what the zoning is. So my question is like, hey, in Boise, zone R2, what is the dwelling max per acre? And it just knows. It just spits it out. It's wild. So I can't, yeah, and a lot of that stuff I kind of know from memory, just from repetition. But you know, I'm working with two, three, four different cities at a time in my mind, and sometimes I get them mixed up. So it's good to just kind of validate it as I'm looking at it.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff on there. Like, I heard about this new website. I think it's called Codex. Like, you can literally tell it, "Hey, I have an idea for an app. Can you build it?" And it will build an app for that idea.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's in my
Dude,
inbox to go dig into that and like try and figure out how to do it.
Insane. For free.
Yeah,
Wow. Codex. That's ridiculous.
yeah.
That
I
is
need
so
I need to
crazy.
spend like a few dozen hours on that and figure it out because I have so many things that I want to build.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that, man. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Um, what else is new this week, man? Anything fun happen?
Fun. See, Nicole's going to the Rams game. Perks of working in high end medical office in Orange County. Um,
Nice.
she got some tickets gifted to her, and her aunt's flying down from Central California, and they're going to the Rams game. She could only get 2 tickets though, so I'm staying at home.
Oh, jeez. Wait, she's
It's
flying in a family member to take to the game before asking you, dude. Is
Yeah,
everything
her
okay?
aunt is like the biggest Niner fan,
Oh, it's a
and
Niners
and I've already
connection.
been to the stadium because we went to the last time the Niners were in town. We both went to the game, and so I've been there, done that. Got the T-shirt,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're gonna take her aunt instead.
Got it. Okay, so this is that new like incredible stadium. Uh,
Yes, I've been to the two newest NFL stadiums, and that's the only two I've been to in probably, I don't know, 8 years.
what was the other one?
The one in Vegas.
The Raiders.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
that
the one
one's
in
amazing.
Vegas more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like the one in LA. It was like so picturesque and so grandiose, but like functionally, it was miserable. Like because they have like rivers and water surrounding the stadium, so you have to walk across these bridges, and the bridges are only maybe 10 feet across or something. So you've got like 60,000 people trying to cross these 12 bridges that are only 10 feet across.
Oh
Like,
geez.
you know, it was miserable, and it's placed right in the middle of downtown. It's like 6 miles away from the airport, LAX
Hmm.
airport, and so there's nowhere to park.
Hmm.
Parking is almost as expensive as one ticket, which is already like $150-$200.
So why not take public transit or an
What
Uber?
public transit? Have you been to LA? We
Well,
have trains that go to downtown LA and like four other places, and I think there is a train that goes somewhat close to there, but like it's basically goes downtown LA to Santa Monica, and that's pretty much it. And then there's one that comes down to Orange County, and the
hmm,
bus system is miserable. Um, and the clientele they typically have are not people you usually want to be around, and
yeah.
so it's not if I did public transit from here to get to the stadium, it would probably take me, I want to say like 2.5 or 3 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, but if I drive there, it's one.
Wow.
And
For some
then
reason, I was thinking it was down near Anaheim. It's in downtown LA. They had enough
they
acreage for
there was
that.
a where they used to play like their before they built this stadium because they brought the teams over before they built the stadiums.
Hmm.
So both LA and the Rams were playing in Cypress, I think, which is kind of like Orange County-ish area.
Mm.
And it was a very underwhelming stadium. It was big, but it was metal bleachers and nothing really going on around it.
And what was there before? It wasn't just like open land, was it?
I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you.
Mm. I don't know if you ever used to watch the show Ray Donovan, but they had like a whole season was about the acquisition of that to build that stadium.
Oh, dude, it was crazy. I mean, the years leading up to it. So I worked when before they actually got the team. I worked at an office in Diamond Bar, California, middle of nowhere. It's like 45 minutes east of downtown LA. And across the street there is a huge plot of land, like giant plot of land, and it had been sitting there for decades. No one's ever done anything with it. And they
Mm.
tried to put a mall there, they said no. They tried to do something else there, they said no. And when they were shopping for the teams to bring a team to LA, they started to build a stadium kind of as like an assumptive close. So you can see they were starting to build like the bowl shape and like about the size of a football stadium. And I think that was one of the options for to put it. I think they were trying to get it like started so they'd be more enticed to say, oh well, we've already started it, so we can get it done in a year and a half instead of 2 years. But they ended up not going there.
Oh, geez. So there's just a half built stadium over there?
Well, it was just like it was really just they'd move the dirt around to make it where a stadium would have gone, because I don't think they actually started
Um,
building anything. But
I
like
see.
it's like dirt 100 feet in the air. you know,
Yeah,
not a small thing. Like,
just $100,000 of Earth movement. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Just in case you do get a stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. Between the two stadiums, I mean, it was, if you look at pictures of it, it's a beautiful thing, but it's not functional. But the one that's in Vegas, like it was done like it's Vegas, you know. It was
Yeah.
done really well. It was easy to get to. It was a little like you can walk there from MGM. It takes you 10 minutes to walk there. You can there's streets that you can get to. There's an overpass, so you're not like waiting on people crossing the street the whole time. And it was big. It was easy to get to our seats. Like it was clean. The food was better. It was just all the way in Vegas. And the biggest issue was the Raider fans.
Yeah. Yeah. They suck.
Yeah. I was trying to think of I was thinking about this like who are the worst fans in the NFL? Like Raiders are up there, Bears are up there, Cowboys are up there,
I almost think Colts fans suck too, honestly.
but they're not like actively like aggressively bad. They're just not very good fans.
Yeah. Just a bunch of like beer drinking, like freaking, I don't know, Midwestern just dudes, you
Yeah,
know?
just hanging out playing cornhole.
Yeah.
I feel like that's all. But like you're gonna if you go to a Raider game, you're gonna see a fight. If you go
Yeah.
to a Cowboy game, you're gonna see a fight. Somebody might get shot. Like that's the type of thing. Like it's a bad place to be.
Yeah. I've just never been to a Colts game and been like, man, I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of cool people. You know,
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
they're missing that camaraderie piece.
yeah, yeah. It just seems like a bunch of dudes. I don't know. Every time I'm there, I'm like, I don't see people I would like that look like good time kind of guys. You know,
Yeah,
just like
good time kind of guys.
just a bunch of like, I don't know, just like engine nerds and fucking dorks. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's the
Uh,
title of this episode is going to be "Good Time Kind of Guys."
I kind of stole that from Shane Gillis,
Oh, you
admittedly.
did? Okay,
Yeah,
I'll put it in
yeah,
quotes.
yeah.
I'll put it in quotes.
He's got this little bit where he's like, you know, I don't hang out with my girlfriend, you know, because I'm a good time kind of guy.
My favorite quote from him is probably he's the car dealership guy. He's like,
Hmm.
"Hey kids, I know you're having fun. I used to have fun too."
Dude,
Anyway,
he's a riot. Um, have you watched Kill Tony, that show, or that stand up
no.
comedy game show? I guess you'd call it. I don't know. It's like
Oh, is that the one where they all get dressed up and he's done it as like a Trump? He did his Trump impersonation once.
he did that once, but that's not typical. He just like did that, and
Yeah,
they're like, "What are you doing, dude?" But he was in character the whole time. Yeah.
yeah. I've seen clips if I haven't watched the whole one.
But yeah, they're starting to do them in stadiums. Even they're getting big on all that. But yeah, that show's really funny, and Gillis has been on it a few times.
The guy,
Um,
like, I'm not a big fan of the guy who's on it. I don't know his name.
the
Like,
main guy,
yeah,
Hinchcliffe,
sure,
Tony Hinchcliffe. Yeah.
say
Did you
so.
watch the roast of Brady? I think we talked about it on here.
Uh, I don't think I watched all of it, but I have seen a good portion of it. I mean, I think you might have told me to watch it. I went back and watched it or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. You had kind of skimmed it, or it was background. So what's her name? Oh
Nikki
the
Glazer,
yeah, she killed. That was like
she's
number
hilarious.
one.
Yeah,
And then Hinchcliffe went on like after her, and he just like he was my favorite one. But even Gillis was talking about it on somebody's podcast. Was like if Hinchcliffe had gone first and Nikki went second, we would have thought Nikki's was the best one. So it's
yeah.
like he just got lucky that he was going right after her, but they were so close and like who was the best. Man, he just ripped on all of them so well.
The roast of Stephen Pendle.
But yeah, his like average stuff, I don't know, is just like the thing when it's not as planned. Like Kill Tony, none of the comedians that are on stage, like on the panel, they don't have any planned material. So Tony's not as like always as hilarious as when he did the roast. That one, obviously, he had time to think about that one, right? So
Yeah,
premeditated. But I don't know where we were going with this. I don't know. But did you watch Tires? Shane Gillis's show, Tires.
Where is that? I've been meaning to watch that.
Netflix. It's great.
Oh, is it?
It's Yeah, it's an easy one to binge on a weekend too. If you like start watching at 5 p.m., you can finish the whole thing before bedtime.
Yeah, I need to watch that one.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
I'll have a whole day Sunday to watch it. I'll probably get
There you go.
I'll probably get trapped in the football cycle though.
Yeah. I haven't watched an NFL game in years, dude, and I gotta say, I don't feel like I'm missing out. Like I was at a bachelor party last weekend, and like these guys are just obsessed with. Anytime we got back to the cabin, it's like got to turn on the TV to see where the games are at. You know, my fantasy league, how I'm doing, and like all the players' names and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't even recognize these guys that were born in 2002. Like, don't recognize them. Don't Never heard this name, and didn't have any FOMO, dude. I was just like, oh my god, yeah, the
Yeah,
football cycle on the weekends. That's so much
I
time,
think it's
you know.
fun, but I think that yeah, if you I'm almost at the point where I can't watch both the morning and the afternoon games, so I'll just pick one. Because otherwise, you're on the couch for 8 hours straight, and then if you watch the night game, something it's just like, okay, I'm gonna pick either the morning or afternoon, usually whichever one the Colts are playing. I'll take my 3 hours of football, and then I'll go from there. But the guys who are on it, all day Thursday night, all day Monday
Mhm.
night, all day Sunday, it's just too much.
Yeah, because they're usually the type of guys who watch all the college games all day Saturday too.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
Hmm.
know some people like that, and it's just I don't know. I like sports. I think they're fun. I play fantasy sports. I think those are fun, but it's not getting a whole day.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I used to. I kept up with it all. I had fantasy stuff, and I was never like good at it and as good as other people. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. It feels like it's too much, and it feels like it's trying to trap you in some kind of consumer cycle.
Trying to get you to
Um,
drink more beer,
yeah, I got no. I need no advertising for that.
but you got to drink their beer,
Yeah, true. Less filling, great taste. Still the best commercial of all time.
dude. I miss those old commercials that were just a little bit inappropriate.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, brother. Well, I'll see you next week. Love you, mom.
Love you, Miss T. Later, dude. Good talking to you. Good to see you. Have a good weekend.
You too.
That was fun.